Moved my sons out of state after my wife's felony fraud conviction, and now she accuses me of stealing her kids. Our relationship failed after she was charged with felony credit card fraud and ended up pleading guilty to a lesser charge. She had been a som to our 2 sons, 5 and 3, and had taken credit cards out in my mom's name to pay for God knows what. She shattered my trust. I work full-time and make a decent living, but nothing extravagant. I had no clue what my wife was doing until cops showed up at my door with a warrant and took my wife away in cuffs and took 2 laptops as evidence. When I got the full story, I filed for divorce immediately. Aside from being a criminal, she was a good mom. She tried to justify what she did by saying she was just doing what was best for our kids, which I felt was total BS given that she never mentioned wanting for anything, and any time she asked to spend on something I almost always said yes. I hired a good lawyer and asked for full custody of my kids. My ex begged me not to do that, saying she needed her kids. But she was still looking at up to a year in jail, and nothing her lawyer said could sway the judge to grant her anything more than supervised visitation. She ended up doing 90 days in jail, paying some fines and restitution, but I've allowed her to see our sons almost every time she's asked. The last year has been total hell, but we've made it work. A few months ago I was offered a much more lucrative position a few states away. I talked with my lawyer about what it would mean if I moved and what the process was. He said that since I have full custody, I have to file a petition with the court to move. So I told my wife what I wanted to do and she exploded. She claimed I was stealing her kids from her, that she's made a lot of strides to get herself to a better place, and that she would fight me tooth and nail for her kids. Well, I filed the petition, got the go-ahead from the courts, and accepted the job. When the judge gave his ruling, my wife burst into tears and began sobbing. It was heartbreaking. I know in my head that I'm doing the right thing for my sons. They are young enough that a move like this won't be too traumatic, but I also feel like their lives have already been completely overturned and I'm just adding more to that. As for my wife, she's a wreck. She's been begging me to reconsider the move, trying everything from guilt trips, manipulation, bargaining. It's like she's going through the stages of grief. But from my point of view, she did this to herself. She lied and broke the law. I have very little sympathy for her. I know at some point she will probably try to file for partial custody, and I'm prepared for that. For now, I'm just trying to do what's best for me and my sons. Does that make me an asshole? Edit. Thank you to everyone who commented, even the ones who called me a heartless off for taking my sons away from their mother. This post has given me a lot of perspective and I appreciate that. A couple things I want to clear up that I keep getting asked about that I wasn't able to include in my original post. The area my sons and I live in is a smaller community. Not everyone knows everyone small, but close. The crime my ex committed was news here. It was in the paper. People know about it. I get weird looks when I'm out in public. People have stopped inviting my sons to birthday parties. I don't want my sons to be bullied and teased in school about their mother being a criminal. I am not going to permanently alienate my sons from their mother. I will make sure they are able to talk and FaceTime with her whenever they want. I will be the one who makes the drive back in order for them to see her until she is able to make arrangements to allow her to do so. I will continue to work with my ex to make sure she is included in things like birthdays and holidays. I know my sons and I will all need therapy from this. There is not good mental health help available where my previous job is. My new job offers on-site childcare and I will have access to counseling and therapy for myself and my sons that we would not have access to without moving. The schools near my new job are head and shoulders above the ones near my previous job. If my ex gets her life back on track and is able to move closer to us, I'm all for it. If she does the things she needs to do in order to petition for shared custody, I don't intend on fighting her for that. But until she does that, I will not allow her anything more than the supervised visits ruled by the court. I will also not ask for any of the court-ordered child support. We won't need it. To all the people who screamed, but she's their mother. Yes, and she always will be, and I remind my sons daily that their mom loves them very much and that she wishes she can be with them like before. I am angry and resentful of my wife, but I work very, very hard to not let any of those feelings impact my sons and their relationship with their mom. Lots of comments from Oop, so a quick explanation of what the ex did. Oop, she took out multiple credit cards in my mom's name after getting her SSN somehow. Racked up about $30,000 before she got caught. My mom alerted her credit card company when she saw a couple unauthorized credit checks from different credit companies, and then the authorities got involved. I had no clue. She apparently spent most of the money on clothes and toys for the kids, makeup and clothes for herself. But that's a shitload of toys and clothes, so I find it hard to believe. Op says the kid's credit is clean. She didn't just break the law, she broke my trust. She defrauded my own mother of $30,000, my elderly mother who lives on a fixed income. My mom has spent the last year putting her life back together after a person who she loved like her own daughter betrayed her. The amount of people dismissing my ex's actions without thinking of the consequences of what she did is staggering. My ex's crime might not have been violent or abusive, but the wounds are still there and will take time to heal. The whole but she's their mother. Stuff is BS. She'll still get to see our sons, I will make sure she does. But she has a long, uphill climb to earn my trust back. Oop, she was a som by choice. She had a college degree, ironically in criminal science. Our state is a 50-50 divorce state, so she still got half our assets in the divorce, and since both our names are on our house title, she'll get half of that if we sell it. I'm no lawyer, so I don't know what identity theft does to one's credit rating, but I imagine it doesn't help it. She's not completely destitute. If she is allowed to move closer to us, I will welcome that and continue to work with her so she can be in our sons' lives. Oop, she was obviously very caught off guard. No one saw this coming. She had to go through so much BS to get her credit cleared up, get credit charges nullified, try to rebuild her credit. She wanted the book thrown at my ex and cussed out the prosecutor for offering a plea bargain. How his mother is doing now, barely getting back on her feet. She's on a fixed income, so this really put a strain on her. I will probably have to step in at some point and help her. Yet another reason I want to take the new job and increased pay. Oop, in our state her original charge was felony grand theft. That carries a 15 to 25-year prison sentence. She got a plea deal from the prosecutor that dropped it below felony level, mostly because it was her first offense. Oop, I don't know her full financial situation. I know she's working a couple part-time jobs and has a small 2BR apartment. Whether or not she could move, I don't know. She's under probation, so she'd need to apply to move anyway. My new job pays over twice what my previous did. It's a huge opportunity for me to provide a better life for my sons. I don't want to sit around here and wait for my ex to get her shit together. Oop, I do not intend on isolating my sons from their mother or preventing her from seeing them. But I also will not allow anything other than court-approved, supervised visits. FaceTime and all that stuff. I will work with her to make sure she gets to talk with them. But there will be no weekends at mom's place until the court gives the okay. I'm not saying I believe she will try to run away with my kids, but I also never believed she would defraud my mother of $30,000. She spent the majority of it on makeup and designer clothes. Oop, I haven't put too much thought into that part yet, but I do not intend on completely isolating them from her. If she can figure out a way to see them, I will not prevent that. I imagine holidays will be something we need to figure out as well. But like I said, I do not intend on preventing her from seeing our sons. She's court-ordered to pay child support, but so far I haven't seen a dime and I haven't asked. You may need to think of it. If she is on probation, she may not be able to come to you, and frankly, I'm not sure she'll be able to afford to travel to you anyway, as she was a SOM. I'm not saying that you aren't doing what's best for your kids, but I feel like you are just screwing your ex because you're hurt/angry/sad, all totally valid feelings, about the situation. And using your sons in the process. So, I'm going with ESH, except your sons. Oop, I will admit that part of me wants to move so that I can get a fresh start as well. The last year has been total hell for me. I'm trying not to use my kids as pawns here, but I know this job can offer us opportunities that my current job just can't match. Update 1. I did end up taking the new job and moved with my sons. We have been settling into our new lives quite nicely over the last month and things have been going really well. My sons love the new house, they have made friends with some other kids their age in the neighborhood. My job has been going really well and I really couldn't have hoped for things to go better than they have. I got both of my sons into a great therapy program and the three of us have also been doing counseling sessions together. My boys have been adjusting amazingly well and I'm so happy and proud of how they've handled this. We've also made 2 trips back to see their mother since she is still in the process of figuring out what she will be allowed to do in relation to her probation. We've also been doing many video calls a week with her. My sons still don't understand why their mom isn't here with us, but they do seem to grasp that this is going to be their new normal. In comparison with how well myself and my sons are adjusting, my ex is the complete opposite. She is still very angry with me and thinks I'm a complete a-hole. She's frustrated with the process of going through the courts to be allowed to move. She's frustrated that I'm not willing to drive our sons back to see her as often as she'd like. She feels she's being marginalized in their lives and that I am pulling them away from her. When she was complaining about all of this during our last visit, I reminded her that all of those things are consequences of her own actions and she blew up at me by saying I'm kicking her when she's already down and I didn't need to take her sons away from her. I told her how well our sons are doing and how happy they are and she should be proud of how strong and resilient they've been. She then started begging me to please move back so that she can be closer because she's not sure the courts will allow her to move and the process is taking too long. I told her that wasn't going to happen, but if there is anything I can do with the court process, that I would be willing to help if I can. I reminded her that I haven't said anything about her not paying the court-ordered child support, but that our boys seem to be in a much better place already and I'm not going to take that away from them. Every time we have a video call with her, as soon as she says goodbye to our son she starts asking me to consider moving back home. I tell her every time that it is not happening. I'm not a robot and I do feel bad to see her so desperate and distraught, but when I look at my sons playing and laughing with their new friends, I know I've done the right thing no matter the cost to my ex. I reminded her that I haven't said anything about her not paying the court-ordered child support. It's a token amount based on her income. With my higher salary I don't need her help to provide for our kids, but she hasn't made an effort to pay anything yet either. She already blames me for a lot of things, we'll just add that one to the list. The effects on my kids have been positive. They are laughing playing with friends again instead of being ostracized by people who punish them because of what their mother did. They are in therapy that we wouldn't have had access to previously. They are in childcare programs that are head and shoulders above what we had access to previously. My priority is my kids, not my ex-wife's feelings. Update 2. I have full custody of my 2 sons that I have with my ex-wife. See my past posts for some backstory on our relationship and why I have full custody. Because I now live a few states away from where my wife lives, I always knew that this holiday season was going to be difficult. For Thanksgiving this year I made the drive back to my wife's place so that she could spend the holiday with our sons. During this visit, I talked with her about plans for Christmas and told her that due to potential winter weather and the pandemic, I would prefer not to drive the kids to her again for Christmas. She did not like this and blew up on me about how I was isolating her from the kids. This was after I just drove hundreds of miles so that we could spend Thanksgiving together. I told her this was not up for debate and that we can plan for something in the spring once the weather warms up and the pandemic hopefully calms down a bit. I did, however, make sure to do a FaceTime call with her and the kids on Christmas Eve and told her that I would do the same thing on Christmas morning so that she could still see the kids open gifts that she sent to them. But when I went to call her on Christmas morning, she didn't answer. I tried back a couple of times but she didn't answer, and the last time it went straight to voicemail. Then, around dinner time, the doorbell rang. It was my ex. Of course, the boys were excited to see her, but I had a serious WTF moment.
For a second, I actually thought about not even letting her in the house, but my sons were so excited to show her all their new toys that I couldn't do it.
After things calmed down a bit, I asked her what the hell she was doing. She said she couldn't handle a Christmas away from her kids, so she made the drive to see them. I told her it was messed up she did this without telling me, but she said if she told me then I would have told her not to come. I then asked her if she got the okay from her probation officer and she said of course she did. She then asked if she could stay for the night since she didn't have a hotel, and I allowed her to sleep in my guest room. Before I went to sleep that night, I sent an email to her probation officer asking if she had really asked for permission to travel. Since it was Christmas weekend I didn't hear back from them right away and my ex left the next day to head back home. That Monday, I got an email from the probation officer thanking me for reaching out to them and asking for a little more information, which I provided. A couple days later I get a call from my ex and she's screaming at me and calling me an asshole for contacting her probation officer. Apparently she hadn't told them or asked them, and now she could potentially land back in jail. She is accusing me of purposely trying to get her sent back to jail so that I can keep our kids away from her forever. That was never my intention, but I can kind of see why it looks like that to her. Does contacting her probation officer make me an asshole? Oop, not sure how that is pertinent to anything here. Update 3. The fallout from Christmas was brutal. My ex was furious, calling and texting me non-stop, alternating between rage and pleading. I mostly ignored it, only responding to messages that directly involved our kids. I tried to keep my focus on them, their well-being, and our life here. But things escalated in a way I never saw coming. A week into January, I got a call from my lawyer. My ex had officially filed for a modification of custody. She was petitioning the court for unsupervised visitation and requesting a schedule where she'd get the kids for summers and alternating holidays. She was claiming that I was actively alienating the children from her, restricting access beyond what was reasonable, and that my lack of cooperation was harming their relationship with her. I was stunned. Not because I didn't think she'd try something like this eventually, but because she was still on probation and hadn't even attempted to show she was in a stable place to co-parent. No steady job. No clear plan. Nothing. Yet here she was, asking a judge to change the custody arrangement. So, I did what I always do, I lawyered up and got to work. My attorney wasn't too worried about the case. We had everything well documented, every video call, every in-person visit, every message where she blew up at me for not dropping everything to make things easier for her. But that didn't mean I wasn't stressed. The idea of my sons being forced into an arrangement that could disrupt their stability was terrifying. And then, things got even crazier. A few days before our court date, I got a call from my mother. She was in absolute hysterics. Someone had stolen her identity. Again. Over $10,000 in fraudulent charges had been racked up under her name in the past month. She had no idea how it had happened, but she was terrified. She called me in tears, saying she didn't think she could go through all of this a second time. Immediately, a sick feeling formed in my gut. Could my ex really be that stupid? I didn't want to believe it, but I knew I had to be sure. So, I started digging. I checked in with some contacts I still had in the area, and it turned out that my ex had been hanging around some questionable people lately. People who were known for financial shortcuts, if you catch my drift. I didn't say anything to her at first. I wanted to wait until I had more information. But the moment we stepped into the courtroom, she made a critical mistake. She accused me, right in front of the judge, of controlling the narrative and sabotaging her ability to be a mother. She started ranting about how I was using my money and privilege to keep her away from our children. That's when my lawyer calmly slid a folder across the table. Inside? Evidence that my mother's identity had been stolen again, just months after my ex had gotten out of jail for doing the exact same thing. Evidence that the fraudulent charges traced back to accounts connected to people my ex had been associating with. When the judge saw this, you could hear a pin drop in the courtroom. My ex turned ghost white. Her lawyer asked for a recess immediately. I don't know what conversation happened between them after that, but the result was clear. Her lawyer requested to withdraw the petition entirely. The judge granted it without hesitation. But that wasn't the end. Because my ex's probation officer was notified. And from what I've been told, she's now being investigated for violating her probation, potentially committing new crimes, and lying to the court. The last message I got from her was simple: you win. I hope you're happy. And honestly, I'm not happy. I'm relieved. I'm exhausted, but I'm also heartbroken, for my kids, for what could have been. I never wanted things to end up like this. I wanted her to get her life together, to be a good mom to our sons. But you can't save someone who refuses to change. Update 4. After my ex violated her probation by traveling across state lines without permission, things got messy. Her probation officer didn't immediately throw the book at her, but they did schedule a hearing to determine the consequences. She was furious with me, blaming me entirely for her situation, and saying that if she ended up in jail again, it would be my fault. Meanwhile, my sons have been thriving. Their new school has been incredible, they're excelling in therapy, and they're becoming more well-adjusted every day. The community has been welcoming, and for the first time in a long time, I feel like we have stability. But of course, that couldn't last. A few weeks ago, I got an emergency phone call from my ex's sister. Apparently, my ex had a complete breakdown over the situation. She had been struggling financially, emotionally, and mentally. Her jobs weren't paying enough, she was struggling to make rent, and she was drowning in legal fees. She had started drinking more heavily and making reckless decisions, one of which involved getting into an altercation at a local bar. That altercation led to her getting arrested again. This time, it wasn't just a probation violation, she was facing new charges. Her sister begged me to bring the kids to visit her in jail. I was torn. I don't want my sons to have memories of their mother in an orange jumpsuit, behind a plexiglass window, but I also don't want to completely sever their bond with her. After talking to their therapist, I decided to tell them that their mom was going through something really tough and that she wouldn't be able to see them for a while, but that she still loved them very much. They took it surprisingly well, which made me both relieved and heartbroken. Then came the bombshell. My ex's sister called again, this time, to let me know that my ex was seriously considering giving up her parental rights altogether. She claimed it was because she knew she couldn't provide for them right now, and she wanted them to have stability without her constant disruptions. But part of me wonders if it's just her giving up entirely. I have mixed feelings about this. On one hand, it would mean no more custody battles, no more legal hoops, no more unpredictable appearances in our lives. But on the other hand, she's their mother. Even if she's made terrible mistakes, do I want my sons to grow up knowing she willingly signed them away? Would they resent me for not fighting harder to keep her in their lives? I haven't made a decision yet. I told her sister that I need time to think, and I've scheduled extra therapy sessions for the boys to make sure they're okay with everything happening. But honestly, I have no idea what the right move is here. Update 5. After my ex's sister called about her possibly giving up parental rights, I braced myself for a long, drawn-out process. But just a few days later, I got a call from my ex's attorney. She wasn't just considering signing over her rights, she had already started the paperwork. I was stunned. For years, I fought tooth and nail to protect my kids from the chaos she brought into their lives, and now, she was just walking away? It felt surreal. I had expected a fight, another court battle, more emotional manipulation, but instead, she was making it easy. Too easy. Her lawyer explained that she believed she was doing what was best for the boys. She knew she couldn't provide for them, and after her latest arrest, she finally accepted that she wasn't in a place to be a parent. She claimed that she wanted to give them a chance at a stable life without her dragging them down, but knowing her history, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to it. The kids' therapist advised me to frame it as a decision their mother made out of love, that she wanted them to have the best life possible, even if that meant stepping away. I haven't told them everything yet. I don't know how to. They're still so young, and I don't want them to carry the weight of this abandonment. The court process was surprisingly swift. With her rights officially terminated, I now have sole legal custody of my sons. No more visitations, no more custody agreements, no more looming threat of her returning to disrupt our lives. Legally, she's gone. But emotionally? That's another story. The boys have been doing well, but I can see the questions forming in their minds. They don't ask about their mom as much as they used to, but when they do, I can see the confusion in their eyes. I've told them she loves them, that she just isn't able to be a mom right now. But one day, they're going to realize the truth, that she chose to leave. And I don't know how that's going to affect them in the long run. As for me, I expected to feel relief. And I do, to an extent. But there's also this strange, hollow feeling, like I spent so many years fighting for something, only for the battle to end before I was ready. I'm focusing on moving forward. My sons will have a good life, they'll have stability, love, and everything they need to heal and thrive. I can finally build a future for them without the constant fear of their mother returning to throw everything into chaos. But no matter how much I try to move on, I know there will always be a part of me that wonders, did she ever really love them? Update 6. It's been a few months since their mother signed away her rights. Life has settled into a new rhythm, quieter, steadier. For the first time in years, I'm not constantly looking over my shoulder, waiting for the next crisis. The boys seem happier, more at ease, like a weight they didn't even know they were carrying has been lifted. But the questions have started. Why doesn't mom call anymore? Is she ever coming back? Did we do something wrong? I knew this was coming, but that didn't make it any easier. The therapist advised me to keep it simple. Mom loves you, but she isn't able to be a parent right now. That's the line I've stuck to, though I can see it's not always enough. They're searching for a reason, for something that makes sense, and I don't have a good answer for them. I've noticed my oldest retreating into himself more. He's always been the quieter one, but lately, he's been spending more time alone, lost in thought. I walked past his room the other night and heard him whispering, like he was talking to someone. When I peeked in, he had his stuffed dinosaur in his lap and was saying, "I miss her, but I don't think she misses me." That one hit hard. I sat down with him, held him close, and told him again that none of this was his fault. That love doesn't always make people stay, but that doesn't mean they aren't loved. I don't know if he believed me. I don't know if I believe me. My youngest is handling it differently. He asks fewer questions, but when he does, they come out of nowhere, like tiny landmines. Last week, we were in the grocery store, and he casually asked, "Do you think mom remembers my favorite color?" How do you answer that? I just told him, I think she does, even though I honestly don't know. The court finalized everything, and I got the official paperwork in the mail last week. It felt so final. Like closing a book I never wanted to read in the first place. I sat there staring at the documents for a long time, feeling a mix of relief and something heavier, grief, maybe, though not for her. For my boys. For the fact that, no matter how much love I pour into them, there's a piece of them that will always wonder why their mother didn't stay. I can give them everything, stability, security, unconditional love, but I can't change the fact that she left. And that's something they'll have to live with for the rest of their lives.